I am seeing people adding to the chat where they're from. We got New England in the house today. I'm in Rochester, New York. Hello, hello. We've got Boston, Maine, Portland in the house. Hey, Charlotte. Use Jeopardy like no one's business. I like that, Jordan. Right on. Okay, it's nice to see everyone joining us from here today. I hope some of you are not baking in the heat. We here in Rochester, New York have finally got that heat that's cooking the West. Thank God for air conditioning. So I am Jake Kwiatkowski. To my Zoom above, as Stephanie says, is Carrie Visor. We are with the Game Agency, and this is the second game building webinar that we are hosting. If you joined us last month, we built Jeopardy, showed you how easy and great it was to use Jeopardy in your training regimen. And today we are going to talk about and build out a Wheel of Fortune game, which is our second officially licensed IP from Sony. So we are the only officially licensed Wheel of Fortune game for training that exists. And we are very excited to talk about how you can use that game in your training, show you how easy it is to build, and then we're even going to play through some of the game that we built. So before we get into the actual game building, Carrie, our instructional designer here, has a little bit of information on just how and why you should be using Wheel of Fortune in your training. So Carrie, please take it away.
Okay, thanks, Jake. I'm going to share. I have a few slides, nothing terribly long, but I wanted to give, can you all see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to give you some background. I was part of the team that built the template for Wheel of Fortune. I worked with a producer, an artist, a developer, and a game designer. And what was really fun about this project was working with the game designer and getting some of her input on things that we don't always have the capacity to really be as worried about as we would like to be. We're very often focused as learning designers on performance objectives and goals and what we want people to learn. And we need a little bit of input sometimes on how to increase motivation, how to make the experience itself more fun, how to give it a nice feel, and how to have some good flow. So that is what I'm going to talk about a little bit before we get into it. Just a couple of things that I learned from working with the game designer that will help kind of inform how you would use Wheel of Fortune when you actually use it in that environment. So basically, just like the game show, there are 3 different types of rounds in the Wheel of Fortune game that we built. There's a spin round where you spin a wheel and then you guess a letter, and when you're ready, you solve. There's a toss-up round where the letters appear one by one, and then you just try to solve the puzzle before they are visible. And then there's a bonus round where you can select a series of letters, or some letters are given to you, and then you have to solve the puzzle based on just that set series of letters. Unlike the game show, you can put these in any order, and we'll talk in a minute about why you might want to do something like start with a bonus round, why you might want to include only toss-ups, why you might want to mix around and use more spins than something else. So there are some different things you can consider there. You can also add interstitials for context. So interstitials are a way to add learning content. It can be text, it can be a graphic, it can be a video. They can go before your puzzle, after your puzzle. They're ways to kind of introduce the concepts that you're going to then have to solve a puzzle based on, or follow up why you included that puzzle in the first place. They're also, you can sometimes use them to kind of craft a story, even just that weaves everything together. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use those. So when it comes to game design, spinning the wheel is fun and engaging. And that is one of the reasons that this is a fun game to add to your curriculum. There's 3 reasons why. First, there's the random spin, just like when you are scrolling on TikTok, just waiting to see what comes up next. The same thing happens on the wheel. You're just spinning. You don't know what's going to happen next, and that's very addictive. So that's kind of the fun and engaging element there. When it comes to loss aversion, you don't always like losing money, but it definitely engages you because you have to make choices about what you're going to do next. Are you going to spin again, even if you know what the puzzle is? If you do spin again, are you going to land on bankrupt? So there's a lot of engagement that occurs there. And then finally, the anticipation of the win. Once you have the puzzle that's all laid out and you can see that maybe you're going to be able to fill in the letters and get that puzzle, that's very satisfying. It gives you a really good feeling about the game. It's why certain boss battles in games are really drawn out, because you like that feeling of being just about to win. So those are all reasons why adding something like the spin round into the Wheel of Fortune game can make it really engaging and fun. The downside of that is if you are using the game for assessment, if you wanted to collect assessment data, you can see how if you knew the puzzle, but you fell on bankrupt on the wheel and you lost the puzzle, you would feel like the game had cheated you and you didn't do as well. So if you're going to use this game for assessment, then we recommend using the other toss-up and bonus rounds because they're a little bit less random, but it is just the spin round itself is just a great way to get people engaged and having fun with your content. The other thing to think about here is crafting a fun experience. You want to think about leveling it. You don't want all your puzzles to be super hard. You don't want all your puzzles to be super easy. A lot of the time, this comes again when we think about game level design. You start a little bit easy, you get a little more complicated, a little more challenging, and then as you get up towards a peak, you give a little break, and then you can kind of move up again. And that kind of engagement, keeping them somewhere between being too challenged and not challenged enough, and just moderating that level of challenge throughout could be a really good way to keep people engaged. So when you're trying to structure your puzzles and when you're trying to think about what order to put them in, you might want to start with something easy and something familiar and then get a little bit more challenging, but don't just keep getting challenging. Add some other easier puzzles in there and give them a break to have some fun. So when we go into the round, you'll see that again, there are these 3 rounds. There's the spin round is the one that most people think about when they think about Wheel of Fortune. So they actually will have the opportunity to spin the wheel, and you can keep bankrupt on there. You can take bankrupt off. That's one of the fun things that you can do with this, depending on how easy or challenging you want to make the round. But basically, the players are focused on the game strategy. So if you remember what we were talking about before with the random wheel spins and the loss aversion, and they're trying to decide if they want to spin, if they want to solve, if they have enough money in the bank, that's a lot for them to think about. So you want to make sure that the categories are short and simple and easy to remember so that you don't have too much cognitive load. You also want to use more common letters, words, and phrases. The first time I built a Wheel of Fortune game, I thought spinning the wheel is so much fun. I'm going to make a really long puzzle with a whole bunch of different letters and they're going to love it. They hated it. It was too hard. It was too challenging because you keep spinning the wheel and then you keep losing, or you'd only get one letter. You had no idea where it was going. So I would recommend using common letters, words, and phrases and playing the game. I think if you can build a couple games, play the game a couple of times, you can feel it. You can, and that's part of the whole game design aspect is game feel. So you can feel if it's too challenging, and you can ask people. And people told me that it was too hard, so I fixed it. And then finally, just focus on fun and not assessment. So this is something that you might want to use during your breaks. This is a great way, even as an icebreaker before a training session starts. You can do something especially encouraging with some of these spin rounds involved in that. It's a great way to introduce terminology that you will then follow up on later during the training, and get people kind of excited and have fun with it. So the toss-up, very often when we talk about games, people talk about using them for an assessment or an alternate kind of assessment. If you wanted to do that, then the toss-up round is probably your best bet because players are more focused on solving. They're not worrying about spinning the wheel. They're not worried about losing a turn. All they're worried about is solving the puzzle based on the letters that appear. You can use more challenging words here, and then you can adjust when the letters appear, what order they come up in, how fast they come up. And in this case, they can spend a little more time reading the category because they're really only focusing on 2 things, the puzzle and the category in the front of them. So although the category should still be clear and descriptive, it doesn't need to be as short, quick, and memorable as it does in the spin round. And then finally, the bonus round. So the bonus round, just like in the game show, you would guess a series of letters. In the game show, it's R, S, T, L, and E. You can keep those letters in our game, or you can limit it and pick different letters, especially if you're doing something like in the pharmaceutical industry where you have a lot of letters that are kind of weird and random. You might want to be able to choose some of those as the 3 consonants or the 2 consonants or the 5 or whatever that you want to put in here. So we give them you can change the R, S, T, L, and E to be whatever you want. And then you can also add up to 3 consonants and 1 vowel that people can choose on their own. The challenge with this puzzle is that you might get stuck. So if you have letters on the board and you really don't know what it is, then there's a chance that you might not win that puzzle. So if you're using it for assessment, I would lean towards using more common concepts and words, but it's also okay to use it as it is as a bonus round and just make it something super challenging and see what people can use it for. Just make sure that you go into it knowing that, and that you're giving the player the perspective that they are in control of their own failure and the game isn't cheating them or anything like that. Again, write clear and descriptive categories, and that will be really helpful to people because that's really the only thing they have to rely on other than the set letters that appear. So before Jake builds the game, just to give you kind of a summary of the things to think about when you're picking rounds and deciding which ones to use, the spin round is great for driving engagement. It's a really fun experience. It's great, again, for introducing concepts that you follow up on either through interstitials or later on through your training. It's also a great way to review. And it's just a fun way to kind of add more repetitions. If you're doing any space learning or anything like that, it's a fun way. People will get involved and actually come back and review your content when they have that kind of fun game environment to play it in. If you do want to assess knowledge, then lean more towards the toss-up, especially with maybe a few bonus rounds going in as an addition to that, just to change things up a little bit. Toss up is probably the best puzzle to use if you want to challenge players with a more complicated word. And then a bonus round is just kind of a nice addition to the whole environment. It's going to be a very different experience from the spin round and the toss up, but it's a fun way just to review concepts and to go back over some terminology. So I'll throw it back to Jake.
Fantastic. Carrie, thank you so very much. I've built a lot of these games, but I learned a ton about the benefits, the instructional benefits of playing Wheel of Fortune and building these games, prepping for this webinar and reading Carrie's notes. So thank you again, Carrie. Do you mind if I steal the screen sharing from you and then we will get to building out one of these games? Thank you. First of all, there is so much Rochester love in this webinar right now. There's only 87 people here, and I think like 5 of us are from Rochester. We're everywhere. This is crazy. I just love it. So thank you. Nice to see all my fellow Rochesterians on this call. All right, so let's build a game. So first of all, I threw together a really simple template for putting down the text for one of these games. So for those of you who are on our Jeopardy call, I simply actually repurposed the Jeopardy template, but you'll see in a minute when we go to build out one of these Wheel of Fortune games, there's actually a lot less information that you need to put in.
Hey, Jake, do you think you could zoom in on that?
Yes, I can. How is that?
That is definitely better.
Voila. Good, great. Yes, I know I can't see so good either. So, okay, so this is a template to kind of just put down your ideas and collaborate with employees, different learners, different designers, etc., to make it easier once you're building the game to just kind of edit everything here. So the component type, what Carrie was talking about, I had the random as pick a puzzle, so it's either spin, toss up, or an info card. The bonus round I put down at the end here, but as Carrie said, you could have bonus rounds anywhere you wanted them to. And here is the answer, and here is the category. Here is the text for a info card, one of the interstitials that Carrie was talking about. Again, all really simple to just kind of have this in one place, but also a good spot to collaborate, edit, make sure you have the materials right before you actually go out and build your game. So let's do it. Let's build a game. So for those of you who are familiar, this is the back end of the training arcade. Here's all of our Wheel of Fortune games. And as you can see, every one of the games in the game agency has aggregate data up here. So this is the data, excuse me, for all the games for Wheel of Fortune. You can see the sessions played, how many players, the overall accuracy of that game. You can add tags in here if you want to further organize and make things easier to look for, who created it, date created, and you can sort by all of this stuff just to make it easier to access what you need. So first of all, we're going to build a new game. So we're going to go to Wheel of Fortune. And here we are. So for those of you familiar with the Training Arcade, this first game info page is more or less the same for all of our games. Just kind of game sharing data, the settings, information pop-ups. That is all pretty much the same through everything, with some just minor differences based on game mechanics. But if you do have a game agency, or excuse me, a Training Arcade subscription and have built games before, this should look pretty familiar to you. So first of all, we got to name the game. Wheel of Fortune Webinar 616. Now, you will see, this is kind of fun, that once you name the game, as soon as I click out of this, it auto-populates this URL with the name of the game. You can easily edit this. You can change it to something that you want. But this URL is the main way, and probably the easiest way, to share out the game. The Training Arcade, again, is not an app. It is not a plugin. There's no need to download anything for your users or learners to play any of these games. They simply need web connectivity that can be mobile, laptop, pad, or desktop. As long as there's internet, you can play if you have this URL. Default language right now, the Wheel of Fortune is only in English, but I do believe we are working on adding other languages at some point down the road. Tags, those are those tags that I talked about. If you want to add something to make this easier to search for later, this is a webinar game, voila. So that's all pretty straightforward. Now, percent of puzzles solved correctly required to pass. So if you are using this for assessment or training, you probably want this number somewhere in the 70 to 80 range, right? So we could say 75. If you are building a game just for fun, which I do most of the time, I put it at 0. Of course, we're not really testing you on anything so much. We're just kind of having a good time. And we want people to pass these fun games, right? You can also add in session limits. You can also have particular game start and end dates. So if you want your learners to have just a specific amount of time to answer something, or say you might be using this or any of our games for like a sales contest or any sort of contest, you can say, hey, you've got 3 hours on this day to get in as many points as you can, and then whoever gets the most points wins X amount of prize, or et cetera, et cetera. So that is an option for you. Show the tutorial before the game start. You can click yes or no. I'm going to click no on this. Learn more URL. That's so you can add it at the end of the game if you want to send your learners to, a different web page or give them some more information after the fact. And then here's an information pop-up, which is optional. We'll see this at the beginning of the game. And also there's a nice little preview here. This can, tell your learners why they're there. Why are we playing this game? What's the point? What game am I about to be playing? Here's where the information goes. Lorem ipsum game description. You get the point. Great. And then lastly is user registration. So authorization, this is just added security if you so desire. No authorization, nothing happens. But if you want it to be an authorized player list, you can upload those lists so that only specific people can play the game, or you can integrate a single sign-on provider into your Training Arcade subscription as added security if you want, or there's no need to do that also. Require user registration before playing. So if I click yes, all of these different fields pop up. So if you want to collect certain information from your learners, emails, phone numbers, names, or add custom fields in here, and that is totally customizable, you can. Or if you don't really care about that, if this is just a game for fun or you don't need that info, just click no. And the only thing that is going to be asked of your learners at the beginning of the game is a name or initials or something for the leaderboard after the game, right? Great, so I think we are all set. Everything looks good to me. So up in the top corner here, I'm gonna click save to save this game. Uh-oh, we forgot something. So this is great. If you go to save and something is missing that the game needs to actually build or launch, it'll tell you and show you what it is. And we forgot to answer this question. So show the leaderboard on game over screen. I always click yes for that, because then at the end, people can see how they stacked up against their competitors or their other learners. If you want to keep that more secret, simply click no, and the leaderboard will not show to your learners once the game is done. Great. Now we'll click save, and we are good to go. So now that we've clicked save, you may have noticed that up here, this components button showed up. So this is where we're actually building the game, and each different puzzle is considered a component here. So as you can see, it's blank, but there's this nice big green button here that says add component. You guessed it, that's what we're gonna do. Voila, okay, this looks like Wheel of Fortune, right? It's starting to look familiar. So this is a component screen. So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is click the component type. Spin puzzle is the one that's auto-selected. And if I go over to my handy dandy thing here, it's not info card, spin puzzle, whoops. That's the first one we got. So this is my category. What kind of training do you want to build? And this is the answer that we're going to be looking for. So I'm going to copy this. What kind of training do you want to build? Go back to my game. Here's the category, and I'm just going to paste that in. Of course, you can type answers in here or clues in here as well. Like I said, this template here is not necessary, but I always just like to have it as just kind of a backup. Keep that information somewhere else and a nice place to collaborate with other folks in your company. All right, so component name, this is a tool for you. So as you can see, it populates up on the top here at the same time. Spin puzzle 1. That's what it is. You can call that whatever you want. This is simply internal. You will not see that when you play the game. Now, we actually need to edit the puzzle text, meaning the answer that we're looking for, right? So the answer is effective, memorable, and fun. So I'm going to copy this, place that there, and voila, there it is. That's how it's going to look on the actual board. If you want, you can actually move these around as well, just to reposition to make it look different on the board. It will auto position these for you, but just know that you have the ability to move things around if you wish. Great. Now, a couple other things. Use a solve bonus. So this is unique to our game as opposed to the game show, that if you solve the puzzle with fewer letters, you get a bonus. So if there's 0, if it's blank and you can solve the puzzle, you're going to get this enormous bonus to your score. But if you fill out every single letter except for, say N here, you're going to get less of a bonus. I usually like to turn that on because it will encourage your learners to maybe take a stab at trying to figure out what this phrase is. Now, here it is, the dreaded bankruptcies. I don't think I can make the sound right now, I forget. But the bankruptcies, this is up to you for added difficulty. When I'm doing games for fun like this, I usually turn it off because there's nothing more just deflating than randomly landing onto that bankruptcy. So I really like that this is an added option that we built into the game. Also, there's entirely up to you. Last 2 things, time setting, meaning how much time do you have to solve the puzzle, slow, normal, fast, keeping it at normal pretty much makes sense. And then more interestingly is the virtual helper. So when you are playing these games as a single player, there are, virtual helpers or computer players, right, that are also spinning and guessing letters for you. I'm not sure if you can read this text, but this prompt is in our game. If you have this set on easy, they will help you tremendously. They will buy the vowels, they will fill in easier letters, etc. If you put it as normal, they'll be kind of in between that. And if you put it as hard, then the AI players will, play to win, so to speak, right? I'm going to keep that on normal as well. And honestly, that's it. That's as easy it is to build a puzzle. Now, I'm going to save this game just, because I grew up before autosave was a thing. And, you had to save that Microsoft Word document every 30 seconds or God forbid it, it just vanished on you. So this game right now, we can play. It's only one puzzle, but if we want to launch this and play, we can do that. But we got more stuff to build first. So I'm gonna go back up here, add another component, and I'm gonna go back to my handy dandy cheat sheet. And the next thing we got is an info card. So this is one of those interstitials that Carrie was talking about, and one of the great ways to kind of make this more of a engaging training game, perhaps. So if we put an info card, it's going to change up what that looks like, because obviously it's not a puzzle. So I copied my text, and I'm just going to copy and paste it into here. And there it is. We get a nice little preview. As you can see, we got a basic text editor in here. I can center this. I can make the text a little bigger if I want to. And we'll keep it normal size. And then if I want to, I can also upload an image or a video. I do have an image for this, for Bloom's taxonomy. Great. So there's the image file. Here it is in the game as a preview. And that's as easy as it is. That's how easy it is, rather, to build a info card, right? Voila, done. Just plop it in. And another way to engage your learners. So I'm going to click save. Again, you don't have to do this, just like I said. Paranoid generation here. And then we're going to go on to our next component. Okay, so we did a spin puzzle. What's next here? We're going to do a toss-up. These are my favorite in Wheel of Fortune in the game show. So since we just had a interstitial about Bloom's taxonomy, we're going to ask that question, a question about it as well. So here is the category, higher order skills in Bloom's taxonomy. And they are these four. So we're going to copy that, go back to the game, put it in the puzzle text. Look at that, beautiful. Look down here, time settings, we want that normal. Virtual helper settings is normal. I'm going to turn off bankruptcies, keep the solve bonus on. That's it. Component name. Oops, I forgot to change this to a toss-up. My apologies. So now that we changed this to a toss-up, it's going to add this extra little factor in here that is going to allow you to guide the order for which these components show up to your learner. So right now, they're in the right order. So this is really cool. I love that our devs put this in here. You can see the order that they're going to show up on the screen. So if we click this right now, click play, it's going to go right in order. And okay, that's no fun. We don't want that. So hang on, let's pause that. Instead of moving all of these around myself, I can click this fun little shuffle tile. Okay, that looks good. That looks like a crazy order. So let's click play. And now you get to see a preview of when and where those letters are going to show up. If I want to turn up the speed a little bit to 2, oops, actually, I think I want it to 1 second rather. There you go. Goes a little faster. Might be just a little too fast, actually. That's probably why we're set at 1.5. And that's it. You can shuffle that as much as you want. And now here, the timer setting is still the same, but the difference with the toss-up, is the value for it. So if you want to make this worth more points, because maybe it's a harder puzzle, you have that ability for a normal, reduced, or an increased price. For now, we're just going to leave this as normal. And we have just done toss-up number 1. Voila, piece of cake. All right, let's do 1 or 2 more here before we get to a bonus round. So we're going to add a component. We did the toss-up. What's next here? Another spin puzzle. Great. Let's just do this real quick. So here's our category. There's our category. How can you engage learners? The answer, tell stories and ask questions. Put that in the text. This is spin puzzle 2. Solve bonus, yes. Allow bankruptcies, no. Virtual helper and timer are at normal. There we go. Look, we just built this puzzle in about 10 seconds, and that's because we had that work done beforehand, but it's as simple as that. So we're going to save the game, and then I will throw in our bonus round, and then let's play a little bit. All right, so component type, bonus round. Now, as you can see, not too much has changed. However, though, here comes the famous RST, LNE, the letters that are revealed, the vowel guesses allowed. So this information that auto-populates, this is what they have in the game. These are the numbers that you're given in the game show, the amount of consonant guesses and vowel guesses. As you can see, excuse me, you can customize slightly if you maybe want to make this a little harder or easier for your learners to give them more consonants to guess for or less. If you want to change up those letters. In my opinion, the RSTLNE is iconic for a Wheel of Fortune, so probably best to leave that if you can. Now that I've said that, I'm going to show you what our final puzzle is, and we'll show you why maybe that can't always be the best. So the category name is nonlinear gameplay, and the answer is branching scenarios. I'm just going to name this quick. Bonus round 1. Now, when I plop that in here, you can see all of the red letters that highlighted here. That's because those are the letters that are going to be given to your learners before they get to call in letters. So by using branching scenarios, we might be giving them just a little too much help here. So I'm going to get rid of N. Okay. I'm going to get rid of N, and we'll leave it there for that, for sure. And so, as we've said, you can add as much as you want here, change up the letters, but that classic RSTLNE is kind of important in a way that, like, you know, people will know how to play Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy for the same way because it's something they've interacted with before. So to have the game, have the materials, you know, look, feel, and smell just as much as you can as like a real Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy game just continues to drive that engagement that we're looking for in our training. Great. So that's that. We're going to click save. And now this game is ready to go. But I have a few more puzzles you may have noticed on that sheet. We didn't build all of them, but with some cooking show magic, oh my God, look at this. The game has been completed. It's been sitting in that oven for a couple of hours and it is looking beautiful. So we are going to play some Wheel of Fortune. Now, those of you familiar with Jeopardy and our trivia game, there is an instructor-led mode for those games. Wheel of Fortune will have an instructor-led mode where one of you or somebody at your company can actually guide your learners through the game, channel your Pat Sajak, your Vanna White, to really build up that engagement and make it fun for your learners. That is coming down the pipe. But for right now, we're going to have a good old-fashioned shout out the answers in the chat kind of thing when we come up to spinning the wheel. So let's play this and see what it looks like. All right, so here we go, Wheel of Fortune. Is everybody excited to spin the wheel? Channel your inner game show host and not get any bankruptcies on this? Sure, that's right, Jen, my fellow Rochesterian. Let's do this. All right, all right. So this is that information pop-up that I mentioned. So we actually have it filled out here, but this is where I had, if we look at my this game, so this is the actual build for this game. Get the Zoom stuff out of the way. Here is that information pop-up, right? So you get the nice little preview. And here we are. All right. And this is that registration information. If you wanted to have this, that is totally optional. We do have the tutorial built on this because we use this as a demo game. So this is great because it walks you through all the different puzzles. But you know what? Let's dive right into this. We know what we're doing. We're going to skip the tutorial and we're going to the spin round. All right. What kind of training do you want to build? Now, just everyone pretend we don't know the actual answers to this, right? We're going to have some fun. So first we can see that our number or our time is creeping down here, but I'm going to spin the wheel, click on that, and look at that. We got $700. Fantastic. So in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, type out what letter should we guess? F. Leslie's got F, G, I. Woo, now we're coming in. Okay, if we get a second guess here, we're going to go with F. We're running out of time. Leslie was hot on the money. Okay, look at that. We got 3 different Fs. That is fantastic. So now we get to spin again. Let's do it. Now, I'm going to spin that wheel. Round and round it goes. And boop, we got 700. All right, everyone throw out another letter. What should we add in here? Brenda had T. Let's do T. Yes, we got one. Fantastic. So the board is still ours. We're going to spin again. Now, as you may have noticed, I can spin and watch for it to go round and round, which is fun. But if I also want to click quick spin, look at that. That saves us just a little bit of time, can get back to the action, so to speak. Brenda wants to buy a vowel. We got to guess a letter, though. Let's do N. Oh, wow. N is all over the place. Let's do N, and then we'll buy a vowel. We've got the N. Okay, Brenda, we bought a vowel. Which vowel do we want to buy? E. Okay, you got it. Woo! There are 5 of those. Brenda knew what we were looking for. All right, let's spin the wheel one more time. Quick spin. We got 500. What's a letter we should do here, folks? V. We got 1. All right. So let's solve this, right? Now, because I'm totally going to cheat here because I want to show you what that looks like. Effective, memorable, and fun is what we are looking for. So let's solve. And I can type this in on my keyboard as well. Effective, memorable, and fun. Solve. Voila. So we got the puzzle correct. Let's continue on. There's our solve bonus. We almost doubled our money. Fantastic. Let's go on to the next one here. So here comes that interstitial. So this is great because it can show up some information to your learners like, hey, everyone study this image, this slide, this video, this song. We can talk about it. And now that you've looked at this, let's move on. Okay, so this is a toss-up. So this is going to move up by itself. And this is worth $8,000. And it's just going to slowly start to click away here. So whenever we are ready to solve this, we can do it. Go back here and cheat real quick. Great. So I'm going to type in apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So I'm typing in on my keyboard. You can also click the letters here on the screen. We're going to solve. Guys, we're crushing it. We're doing really well in this puzzle right now. All right, let's keep it going. Another spin round. How can you engage learners? All right, let's spin real quick. Quick spin. We got $500. We didn't get that 5,000. It's going to be there. Let's type in a letter. What do we got, guys? What do we want to hear? Matt had L fast. Let's do it. We got 2 L's for $1,000. Fantastic. Let's spin one more time. 500 again. Besmir has asked for D. Let's do D. Oh, we didn't get any D's. That's good. I like that because now it can show the, there we go. You see the AI players or the computer is playing some rounds, right? So this is fun because they will fill in some of that puzzle for us. And as you see, it moves pretty quickly to get your learners right back into the action. We're going to do one more quick spin for Leslie. She wants a T. We got 3 of them. Yes. I'm going to solve this. Tell stories and ask questions. Look at that. Fantastic. All righty. Got our solve bonus running through. Now we have another little interstitial here to engage our learners. Let's continue through. Let's go through this quick so we get to that bonus round. You can all see how that looks. Instructional design framework. All right. I'm going to cheat a little bit in the interest of time. ADDIE design model. That's right. Okay. ADDIE design model. Voila. Great. We got our bonus. One more spin round. Again, in the interest of time, I'm just going to solve this for us. Challenge learners with games. That's right. Get folks engaged using those great gamification techniques. Fantastic. All right. Now let's get to the bonus so we can see what this looks like. One last interstitial. here is the bonus round. And I will share out this game link to all of you so you can all go ahead and play through this as a single player mode after the fact if you would like to. So non-linear gameplay, remember, so here they are, RTLE. All right, so that only gave us a few. What other letters do we want to call out here, everybody? I need 3 consonants and a vowel. So I got N, S, U is going to be our vowel M. Okay, NSM, and our vowel is going to be U. Let's see what help we got. Oh, we got some nice help there. We know the answer is branching scenarios. I don't know about you, but every time I watch Wheel of Fortune and I see someone actually solve the bonus puzzle at the end, I get so happy for them. Like I have no skin in that game and I am engaged and drawn into that game. So it's just really fun to see people solve these, you know, the thrill of winning or almost winning. And ladies and gentlemen, congrats. We just won and played our first Wheel of Fortune game. That's simple. So definitely a great tool, as Carrie had said, to use, you know, maybe pre-assessment to train on some terms, or just as a great way to break up the day. It's fun, it's fast-paced, and just another great way to engage your learners. So now that we've played the game, shown how that is built, I believe it is time for some questions. So Jen, Stephanie, what does everyone have for us?
All right, we do have a few questions.
All right, great.
So let's start with, can the image on the info card screen be enlarged or zoomed in so it's easier to see? I think that's on the interstitials.
That is a great question. So I don't believe so. Like you cannot zoom in on this. Well, what you can do is make the text larger. So that text that I had was normal. You can go up to huge. Hang on, let me show you. It's a great question. We can get a little preview of what that looks like. So here is that. And right now it's on normal. If I click huge, oh boy, there you go. So that definitely blows up that text a lot. There's no zoom mechanic per se, but you can definitely increase the size of that text on those interstitials. Yes.
Awesome. So just something to be aware of when you're picking your image is maybe make sure you really crop your image to exactly what you want the learner to see. All right, so we have another question, which I think might have been answered just in your demo, but when the puzzle answer has an ampersand or a comma, are those built to automatically display, or do you have to guess those?
Those are automatically displayed and built in, and you do not need to guess them. Good question.
Perfect. And then, as you mentioned, Wheel of Fortune currently does not have a virtual instructor-led mode. It's coming down the pipeline. It's going to be available. But what Jake was showing was the single-player version that we kind of are just guiding you through for the demo. If in the case of a virtual instructor-led game like Jeopardy has that mode, is there a max number of learners that you would recommend to all be playing at one time?
Another great question. So right now we have found that about 200 players on one of these instructor-led games is optimal. That just is just enough of people to, you know, get into the game, to control that kind of crowd, et cetera. We have done games with more people than that. You know, personally, I think is more fun to have a slightly smaller crowd, because in the instructor-led modes in the back end, you know, you can see in real time what people are answering. Maybe people are chatting. So it just gives you more time to get to know your players and interact with them, call them out, get to know their names, etc. If you get hundreds and hundreds of people on, you just get lost a little bit in the noise, right? But 200 or so we find is optimal. However, you can do an instructor-led mode with 2 if you want to.
Yeah, we've done this for virtual happy hours during the pandemic with like small groups of employees, and it is really fun because you can have a lot of banter back and forth.
Absolutely. Yep.
Another question we got to, so if you wanted to build this game into an online learning course, How do you do that? Do you just put a link in the game? Can you put it in your LMS? So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yep, great. And I forgot to mention that. So all of our games in the Training Arcade, as I showed you, first of all, the URL is probably the easiest way to share that out. People can just click on that and boom, they're in the game, they're playing. If you want to embed it into an LMS, you can do that. All of our games can be SCORM wrapped and you can upload or use them in that manner as well. They can be embedded into a website. Any which way that you want to publish and share this game with your learners, you can do so. They can also be embedded into other courses as well. Usually the URL, like I keep saying, is the easiest and most straightforward way to go about it.
I believe that Lectora does have an integration with the Training Arcade. So once you connect it to your Training Arcade account, it's super easy to put a game into your Lectora course. I don't think the other authoring tools have that. So, Lectora is best by Lectora. All right, other questions. Okay, so can you give us some examples of using this puzzle in adult learning? Like what are some of our clients using it? How are they using Wheel of Fortune?
Good question. So I don't know what our client, I don't deal with the client facing side of things as much. Carrie, do you have any ideas of, or suggestions rather, of how to use this in more of an adult learning context?
Yeah, I think I would think of it as less of you can use it for terminology, but I think you can also think of it as a fill in the blank kind of question as well. So you could have, a while back I did training for TSA. So the first thing that kind of pops in my mind is the category could be prohibited items, and then they could list those things down. So there are ways that you can pose questions that the puzzle answers that are more conceptual or that are based on the types of things that you would need to know, like when you're on the job. And then you can also use the interstitials that are kind of mixed in between to provide a little bit of information that you follow up on. I personally really like it as a way of introducing. I'm a big fan of advanced organizers in general. I think it's really helpful to give people some context for what they're about to learn. So if you can use Wheel of Fortune to do that, it's just a quick, even a few rounds prior to getting into training with some of the concepts that they're going to learn along the way, or the main topics that they're going to cover. I think that's a really nice use of it, and it's an underserved mode of training. It's very hard to find a way to get people engaged before the training actually begins. And because this is fun, you might actually get some traction on that. So that's how I would say it. I would say think about it as kind of an introductory, setting things up, advanced organizer almost approach. And I would also think about it how you can use it as kind of not a multiple choice, but like a fill in the blank kind of conceptual way of practicing information as well, if that helps.
I think that's great suggestions there. We have a couple more questions about building the games. Those would be for Jake. For the interstitials, is there a way to paste pictures in versus saving to your computer and uploading?
So no, unfortunately, it is just a file uploader at this point right now. So you do have to kind of save and upload those images. You can add in hyperlinks into it. I don't know if that would help in any way, but to add a video or a image, you're looking for PNG, JPEGs, MP4s. The videos can be uploaded with a URL like a YouTube or a Vimeo link or something like that. But no, you can't just paste it in, unfortunately.
All right. And then we have another question. To make it more user-friendly for the person actually building the game, is there a way to increase the font size on the Training Arcade interface?
So I saw that question. That is a great question. I haven't been asked before. And no, I don't believe there is a way to increase the font size on the game builder, but I am definitely going to add that to my list of suggestions and great ideas to pass on to the dev team. So yes, that is a great question that I don't believe we have at the moment.
I think, so it is browser based. So couldn't you just do like Control+ to zoom in? Usually that will.
I was going to say you could do that, just zoom in on it yourself. But in terms of like actually increasing the font size on the back end, then unfortunately, no, that's not a built-in component at this point.
But maybe in the future.
Yeah, perhaps.
I think that is all the questions. If I haven't answered your question, just submit it again because it might have gotten lost. But otherwise, I am going to post a link in the chat to the Training Arcade free trial. That is where you can try out building your own Wheel of Fortune, your own Jeopardy. There's a bunch of other games too. So there are multiple games in the Training Arcade, not just Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And each one kind of works for a different training need or objective. We have some webinars up on our site on aligning games to the different learning objectives. Those are really helpful for deciding what game is best.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just build all Jeopardy because Jeopardy is super fun. Wheel of Fortune is super fun. Clearly, we're a little biased on this webinar. We all have our favorite games. But thank you so much, Carrie and Jake. This was really helpful for everyone. Thank you for joining us, everyone on the other side of the webinar. Hopefully, we'll see you on another webinar in the future.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. And thanks to all my fellow Rochesterians out there.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Be well. Bye-bye.